Hey, how's it going, guys? We're here, The Last of Us finale. This episode started off cool. We got to see the voice actor for Ellie. That voice, man, that voice is iconic. Last episode, we got to see Joel, but, Troy Baker, he puts on the voice. He puts on the accent. But Ashley Johnson, she sounds like Ellie. So, and it was cool. They made her Ellie's mom. And I thought that was interesting. They tried to explain why Ellie's immune, and there was a scene where the baby's delivered. She cuts the umbilical cord, and Marlene comes in, and not Ellie, Ellie's mom is begging Marlene to take Ellie and raise her. And she's like, I promise, I cut the cord before I got bit. But in actuality, she got bit or scratched, whatever it was, on her leg before she cut the umbilical cord, because she wanted to ensure that Marlene understood that there was no connection to Ellie. There was no exposure of cordyceps to Ellie at all, that there was not going to be any problems in the future at all. That wasn't the case, right? The umbilical cord was still attached while Ellie's mom was bit. So maybe that's why she became immune. There was no explanation like that in the game, at least an obvious explanation. Again, I said maybe there was some audio recordings, but I doubt it. But yeah, I feel like there doesn't need to be an explanation. It's cool that it was left a mystery. I do like that mystery aspect. A lot of times, a lot of movies, a lot of shows nowadays, they feel like they need to expand and explain every last detail. You don't need to. I prefer show, not tell. I don't need to be told every single detail. Leaving things up to the imagination, it honestly makes things feel more full and more rich. Whereas they're trying to explain everything, and it doesn't feel as full and as rich, right? Leaving that mystery just adds that bit. Okay, I'm blowing it out of proportion with the mystery bit in this particular instance. But in other instances, like, let's say in Star Wars, Yoda's backstory. I'm getting off on a crazy tangent here, but you get what I'm saying. So then it jumps over to Joel and Ellie, and Joel and Ellie are in a building, and Ellie's not in a nice mood. She's not in a good mood. She's kind of sad, right? And Joel picks up on that, and he's like, we don't have to go through with this. We can drop all this, head back to Tommy's, and it'll be like none of this ever happened, and we can just live our lives together. And, obviously Ellie was like, no, we've been through so much. I've done so much. We got to go through with this. But again, with the delivery, I prefer the game over the show. It's just that in the game, Ellie is a bit more childlike. In the show, it was more like she was lecturing Joel. She was telling Joel, hey, this is what we should do. This is how we should do it.
We don't have to do this. I want you to know that.
What do you mean? What else are we supposed to do?
Nothing. We just go back to Tommy's. We forget about the whole damn thing.
After all we've been through. Everything I've done. It can't be for nothing.
We don't have to do this. You know that, right?
What's the other option?
Go back to Tommy's. Just be done with this whole damn thing.
After all we've been through. Everything that I've done. It can't be for nothing.
So as they're exploring, we stumble upon the giraffes. And, that's an iconic scene in the game, and it looked nice in the show. Ellie and Joel feeding the giraffes. And that always reminded me of the Jurassic Park scene, right? Where Grant and the two kids are feeding the brachiosauruses. So I've always liked that scene. But anyways, so they come down, and they're at this military compound, and Joel and Ellie are talking. And here we make a big divergence from the game. Joel tried to kill himself. That's what the scar was on his forehead. He shot and he missed. He tried to kill himself after what happened with Sarah, and that did not happen in the game. And this, again, perpetuates the whole thing with Joel in the show is softer. He's more emotional than Joel in the game. Joel in the game wouldn't kill himself. He strives hard and drives forward. He did things he did unthinkable things to keep him and his brother alive. He struggled to live. He wouldn't try to kill himself. He's not that type of person. So, again, a very big character difference between Joel in the game and Joel in the show. We didn't get the giving of the picture of Sarah and Joel from Ellie to Joel. That didn't happen. At least I don't recall that happening. That was a touching moment in the game that they left out. But they left a lot out in this episode. This episode, honestly, felt like the Spark Notes version of what occurred. This episode flew by. Especially once we get bonked on the head by the Fireflies and get taken to the hospital. From then on, things flew by. Like, they've been cutting down the action a lot. And here, what they showed, not only just cut the action, they showed the action, but they diminished it. They diminished the intensity of the action. So a lot of times in the show, they've been cutting down the action, the gameplay sequences, and not showing us the action. So the show is more drama-centric, character-centric, and we don't get a lot of the action. And in this episode, they showed it, but it was the most soothing massacre I've ever seen. So, they've taken Ellie, right? And obviously Joel doesn't want to have any part of that. And he wants to get to Ellie. And so Joel is shooting everybody. That was intense. That was really intense in the game.
I said move. Give me an excuse. Which way? What the fuck you doing? Keep walking. I said keep walking.
Where's the operating room?
I ain't got time for this.
Where?
Where? Top floor, the far end.
In the game, he was going around massacring people, trying to get to Ellie. And there was no real, I didn't feel that desperation to get Ellie. I didn't feel that I don't care about any one of you guys. I got to get to Ellie. But they had this music playing over the scene, dulling. I'm usually one for soundtrack, but this soundtrack didn't enhance the action. It didn't enhance the intensity. It dulled it down. It made things more dramatic and more emotional. It focused only on one facet of the experience and didn't emphasize everything else. It literally diminished the scene. And so we have this soundtrack that's literally dulling the scene or enveloping this entire scene, and Joel is going around and killing people. There's no intensity on his face. He's just mowing down the people, and the soundtrack is, I don't know, man. The whole thing, I didn't like it, and it went by like that. He got to the operating room like nothing. It seemed like there was no struggle at all. It felt like the cliff notes of what happened in the game. And the soundtrack in that scene, man, when Joel is carrying Ellie, what happened to the soundtrack? The soundtrack in the game was so much more intense. Again, the show is dulling everything. In the game, that soundtrack emphasized everything. I felt the intensity. I felt the emotion. Joel is desperate to try and get out of there. It's just everything is building. Everything is rising. The siren going off in the background. Joel running with Ellie in his arms. And he's just trying to find a way out. Man. So we get out of the hospital. They're in the car, right? And then, Joel lies to her saying, they did everything they could and everything. And it ended. I mean, and it ended just like the game. They had the end credit soundtrack, which I love that music. But, man, we skipped through so much. It was like it was literally like we're trying to rush to the finish line here. They didn't give us time to feel the emotions. And this is the same problem I had with the beginning of the show. They didn't give time to build the relationship with Joel and Ellie. Here I'm going full circle back to the beginning, the same issue. They eventually got the relationship. I liked the relationship, but the build up was missing. It just felt rushed, man. It felt like I was watching a summary of like a summary of what was going on. And you know me, I'm a stickler for the original character model in The Last of Us and The Last of Us Remastered. Even more, I like that more than The Last of Us Part 1. So that, especially with that end shot in The Last of Us 1 and Last of Us Remastered, Ellie's eyes, the childlike face, the looking up at Joel and saying, okay, like, I'm just putting all my trust in you. That, I'm always going to like that more.
But if you just keep going, you find something new to fight for. And maybe that's not what you want.
Swear to me. Swear to me that everything you said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
Okay.
Again, I'm not saying this episode was bad, but it was not as good as the last episode. The last episode was much better. This episode felt rushed. It felt like the spark notes of what actually occurred. So let me know down in the comment section, what did you guys think about this episode and the whole Last of Us Season 1 all together? And I will see you guys in the next video. Take care. Goodbye.
No matter what, you keep finding something to fight for. Now, I know that's not what you want to hear right now.
Swear to me. Swear to me that everything that you've said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.